Hello, my name is Jacob Cochran. I'm a career coach at University of Northwestern's Career Development. Today I'm going to go over some next steps for those that are graduating soon. Hopefully for many of you this will be some sort of review, but just in the midst of the craziness that we're going through right now, it's not a bad idea to review and just make sure that you are continuing to do the things that you know to do. But perhaps there will be a couple nuggets in here that you can use. For more specific information about some of the current situation regarding coronavirus and quarantine and addressing those, we are going to have other webinars this month that will address some of that. This is a little bit more broad about just the general next steps, but I will try and address things as I can. But if you have specific questions, feel free to, if you're watching live, throw those in the chat. Otherwise, if you are watching the recorded version of this on our YouTube channel, you can email us at career@unwsp.edu, and I'll show that one at the end. So before we get really into it, I just wanted to say, we know that this is a unique, unprecedented time. There's so many things going on personally and also in our society and globally. There's, as far as career development is concerned, there's an alarming amount of unemployment claims being made. And so there's going to be some unique situations with that. So just want to remind you that we are here to serve you. We want to share our resources with you. You can make appointments with us, but we are confident that you will be successful, and just want to remind you to put your trust in the Lord in this time and at all times. So what we're going to be covering then today is we're going to be covering resumes just briefly, and then Googling yourself, job searching, interviewing, and working out some extra details. We're going to be spending most of our time on number 3, job searching. So be prepared to go over that a little bit more in depth than the other ones. First, just to start with your resume. So in the process, as a soon-to-be graduating senior, this is where you should be starting. If you haven't done this already, make sure that you have a resume that you're proud of, that you're confident is appropriate to be handing over to a professional or to a possible employer. And some things to just kind of check. Just make sure that your resume accurately represents you, that it's up to date, and that it really markets you well. Make sure it's easy to read, easy to understand for your possible future employer, and tailor it to the specific jobs and companies that you're applying to. Don't just have one resume for all of your applications. They should be specific to the different roles and the different companies that you're applying to. Of course, we are here. Career Development is here to help you. If you want to make an appointment, we can go over specifics on your resume. With the high unemployment and people who maybe have some professional experience and aren't just recent graduates entering the field, you want to make sure that you have a great resume. You want to make sure that it is highly tailored to the job and role. So a good resume might not be enough with the current situation that we have, but again, there's so many things that you can market. There's so many awesome things that as a recent graduate that you can market to potential employers. And so just meet with Career Development and we can help you figure out what those are. As you're kind of doing your resume, one thing that you can be doing at the same time is just checking your online presence. So go out there and Google yourself and figure out what shows up. I remember for several years after I graduated from college, there was actually an article from my university that I had been interviewed for that showed up when I was Googled. There was also a picture of me that accompanied that article. Luckily, I looked so different in the picture that most people didn't actually assume the article was about me. Not that there was anything wrong in the article either, but it was interesting that that was one of the top hits for my name that was out there. So just search what shows up. If it's something you have control of, then you might want to make sure that you are checking it for spelling, grammar, and just how professional it looks. If it's something that you personally don't have control of, maybe you can reach out to the organization or the individual to see if they can modify or change or take it out uh, off the internet if it's something you don't want out there. Otherwise, yeah, if it's something you have no control of and nobody is going to have control of, hopefully it represents you well still. If there's no way you're going to be able to get that off of the internet. Otherwise, just be ready to do maybe just some damage control. Maybe be ready to answer questions about that later on, and try and get positive references to you, online references to you, to show up higher in Google searches. So your LinkedIn account, try and make that all look professional, and your other social media accounts, maybe make those public and make those look really good so that they would show up higher than the thing that maybe doesn't reflect super well. Maybe it's you in your Halloween costume as a 16-year-old dressed as a vampire, and you just don't want that to be the top search. I don't know. But also polish up just your general online presence, even and especially so on your social media. So whether that's Facebook or Instagram, and nobody has Google Plus anymore, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But I do want to mention with Google Plus that a lot of people forget about their Pinterest boards that are out there. So if you ever created a Pinterest board, make sure that that's private, or that's cleaned up as well or reflects well on you. Maybe make a Pinterest board that shows you in your perfect job, and make one for each company that you're applying to. No, I wouldn't do that. But I wouldn't just stop at making your socials private. Some people think that means that they're covered and that they can post whatever they want. They can complain about their boss. They can, post negative things politically. That's not necessarily the case. You never know when your friend's dad or your friend of a friend is in a position where they're on a hiring team, or they're in some sort of position of power over hiring you, and they have access to your accounts through your friend or your siblings, sibling, or maybe they've got connections that things that they would be able to see just through proxy, I guess. So I don't have any personal horror stories with that, luckily. So it's just always a good reminder, though, just to have social media accounts that reflect well on you. So I mentioned we were going to spend the most time in talking about job search. There are kind of two types of job searching that we're going to cover. One is job boards and applying to jobs on websites, and the other is networking. If you've ever heard me present before, you know that I really put an emphasis on networking. It's so important. There's so many stats out there that show this, but we consistently see that there's so many jobs that are not even published, that they are only found through networking. And so it's so important that you are utilizing that way of job search. And job searching and networking should be happening basically at the same time, and they're so intertwined. I'm going to try and show that a little bit, but I did try and split up your job search into two parts, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is more that research part, and phase 2 is the follow-up, and we're going to talk first about the research. So you can research what jobs are out there just by using the online job boards. But you can also use the online job boards to find out a lot of things and know what jobs are a good fit for you. So this is a great place to start. If you haven't started job searching yet, use job boards to figure out some of the industry buzzwords and different industry lingo. Think of, you can learn through your job search different experience words like director, associate, analyst, assistant, kind of what they mean and what qualifications go with those. You'll see different software and skills that maybe you need to know or should know, and you can see what the different job descriptions are for different job types and different job titles. So some different online job boards that you can use to do this. Here's a list of the ones that I typically recommend. Indeed being the kind of the heavyweight, I think, out there. So Indeed is one of the more easy ones to use, one of the most used ones out there. But also LinkedIn has a really great job board that you can use. We subscribe to Handshake at our university, so we definitely have a lot of students who have found internships through Handshake, and making your profile, building out your profile on both LinkedIn and Handshake can help to even have just recruiters reaching out to you, but it's a little bit of a different story right now. But some different ones that maybe you haven't used. Glassdoor is one that I really like for, you can create a free account and then you can use their job board without having an account. But the nice thing about that is then you can be looking at Glassdoor and you can actually see reviews of specific companies and even possible interview questions. There's a lot of extra information on Glassdoor. You can also find some of that on LinkedIn. I got a question in the chat. If recruiters are out there looking for people right now, there are recruiters out there looking, from what I've heard, but there's very specific to different industries. The main industries that are actively looking right now would be those that are maybe very cloud-based, computer virtual networking are the ones where they are out there actively looking. Otherwise, many other industries have put a halt on what they're currently looking for. I think I heard, though, that insurance is another area that they're out there recruiting as well. And I'm sure that there are other industries as well, but the main one that I did hear about was kind of virtual networking and some of this online cloud-based software programs. So good question. Idealist, that's a good job site for nonprofits. Same with the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits. That one's a little bit more local. So that's a great online job board to check out. No matter the industry, all of these are good ones to check out, even if you aren't necessarily going into work that lends itself directly to nonprofits. Nonprofits need all types of workers. So, and in addition, I don't want to forget to mention this, check out the career section for specific employers that you're looking for. Yeah, the question about recruiters, are they really looking for people right now? I think that there is less activity from the recruiters right now. So it's so important to be out there and just seeing what's out there right now, but then more important to be networking, and we'll get to that. So I mentioned before that you can learn from Indeed. So I'm just going to quickly highlight some different things that you can, areas of learning from just one job posting on Indeed. So right here we can see that the employer is Allianz Life. And so we know that they're hiring. Well, this is from last summer. So, but if you're seeing on Indeed, a job that's posted by a company, we know that they're hiring. So maybe check out their website. Do they have any other internships or any other jobs posted right now? And you might be able to, find something that's more suited to you than the one that you're seeing on Indeed. Also, it's a great thing to do. It's just to check, I have connections at Allianz Life? And so, just seeing what employers are out there now, you can use that information later in the kind of the networking section as well when we go on to LinkedIn. And then reading the job purpose, the role, the description. Do you know what all this means? SEO, yeah, do you understand what that's saying? Do you have some potential other keywords that you could use when you're searching for jobs that you didn't think of before? Yeah, possibly some skills that you can realize that you could learn, some qualifications that you can pursue. So those are just some areas of learning. And Indeed oftentimes also has similar job titles, similar job postings that are listed below. And that's a great thing to check out and just get some ideas for other job titles, job types that you could be searching for on Indeed and the other websites. So not just Indeed, but on those other websites as well. So we're not going to do this right now on the webinar, but if you are watching the recorded version, you could pause this and do this. And just I challenge you though to be thinking, of some sort of job title from your field, and then go through this activity just to see what you could learn from Indeed. So first, part one, brainstorm some different other different job titles for that role. Think of some action verbs that maybe you'd want to use on your resume, and then think about some different qualifications that you want to make sure that you highlight, especially if you had them on your resume, and then some companies that are hiring. So if you can brainstorm those first, and then part two of the challenge is to go back onto Indeed, search that role, that job title, and then write down a list of these, and you can see how much that you'll actually learn from Indeed. You can get different job titles to search for. You can get action verbs to use on your resume. You can see the qualifications that you need to emphasize, and also those companies that you can network in. So on that note, what can you be doing for networking? So again, this is so important for job searching all the time, but it's going to be extra important right now. And especially with traditional networking being difficult to do during a quarantine, those that can figure out how to do online networking are going to be the most successful during this time in lining up some really good connections for themselves for now and down the line. So here's just a list of areas that you should be networking. So you should be networking in with your family and friends, your professional associations, different communities that you're a part of, on LinkedIn. This informational interviews is more how you should be networking as part of phase one, and I'll get to that. And then any events that you can attend. Right now, there's not too many events going on in real life, but there are some virtual networking events. I haven't seen them get set up yet. I just have heard from some colleagues that there are some being set up, and they look a little different sometimes. I know Career Development has a virtual ministry and nonprofit career fair that you guys should all check out. We sent out a link on Friday to that. That's essentially all that is. So this isn't so much great for networking in the traditional sense, but all that is a document that we've got for people who are going to show up to our career fair with different different information about the companies who are going to show up and the positions that are still available. So if you are currently looking for positions, check that out. We sent that out on Friday. I believe you can also find it on our Confluence site. And I will, we'll be sending out a link to that also later this week again. And check out our Instagram. That's where it would be as well. But so moving on, networking, just want to remind you though, as I emphasize the importance of networking, that it really is more about farming than it is about hunting. So it's more about cultivating the relationships, being in it for the long term, and seeing what develops than it is about having a target and getting that target and killing the target. No, it really is about the relationships that you develop. So a great tool for networking is LinkedIn. And I won't spend a lot of time on this right now, but one area that you can be looking for new connections and doing some informational interviews or finding some people to do informational interviews with is by going to the alumni tab on the University of Northwestern St. Paul's LinkedIn page. And so I think I've shown this many times before, but essentially you can go on that alumni tab when you search University of Northwestern St. Paul on a desktop computer, and you can find, you can search different companies, you can search by what people majored in, by their roles, and when you find people that you want to connect with, you can send them just quick messages, and I encourage you to send a message as you connect, and then also if they don't reply back within a week, send a follow-up message through the LinkedIn Messenger after 1 week. Um, and these are just examples of messages. But essentially, the idea is that you just want to connect with them, and hopefully it's somebody who is in a field you're interested in, or had a similar major. Again, right now we're in that research phase. I know that I'm going into a lot of detail about different things, but we're still in that research phase of figuring out what jobs are out there, what should I be doing, what's the best way to do things. And so your best resources are going to be the people who graduated in the same major or are in an industry that you're interested in, because they can tell you their experiences and give you advice. So the current situation right now, you aren't going to be able to meet up for coffee, or I recommend not meeting up for coffee unless it's over Zoom. So connect over Zoom or give them a phone call, but realize that right now is a great opportunity for this. There's so many people at home. Many of them are back on LinkedIn just because they're getting information about the current job situation through LinkedIn. There's a lot of good articles on LinkedIn about that. They might be trying to reconnect with people as there's maybe some job security questions on their own side of things. And and people just have more time and are not in the office, so they're spending more time on social media sites and things like that. And LinkedIn is one of those. So it's actually a great time to be doing this because more and more people are on LinkedIn than normal. So when you connect with someone, whether it's through a family or friend connection or professional association or an alumni from LinkedIn, it's important when you meet with them that you do these things. You should be interested in what they have to say. You should be authentic, be yourself. Portray a professional version of yourself, because this is kind of a work setting, but it's okay to have some small talk. Be prepared. So again, with like LinkedIn existing, you can search somebody's work history and you can come up with some questions. You can search companies online that they've worked for, and you can come prepared with some questions or some ideas of what you would talk about. And just kind of on that note, talk less, ask more. Ask about their career path. Ask about the roles that they've had, the different titles, the different responsibilities. Ask for their advice in job searching or in the industry that you're interested in, or the company. Ask for any leads. Do they know anybody else you could connect with? Okay, that's going to create your kind of round 2 of networking. So round 1 is just reaching out to anybody and everybody you can, doing some informational interviews, asking questions, and then collecting those leads. So again, I'm going to put this on a lot of slides. Just a reminder, more about farming than it is about hunting. So this part is important for later down the line, but important for phase 2 is to keep track of your network, stay organized, have a list of information that you can write on as soon as you're done connecting with somebody or after you've reached out to them via LinkedIn. Record notes on, if you've met with them, record notes on advice that they gave you. If you haven't met with them and you've reached out to them twice via LinkedIn, record that in the notes. Followed up on this day, or reached out first on this day, followed up on this day. And during this process, just wanted to throw this in there as well. Get some committed references. So as you're connecting with your professors or people in your community that know you very well, have these conversations with them, but also if there's somebody who knows your character, knows your professionalism, then you can ask them at that time if they're willing to commit to you as a reference, as a personal reference for your job applications. So that could be a professor, supervisor, mentor, somebody from your community, preferably not a family member. So going into phase 2 of the job search, gonna speed things up a little bit. So use those leads that you've collected, and maybe somebody that you talk to actually has a specific company that they said you should look at, or a specific job that they recommended. Follow up and apply to those jobs, okay? And follow up and find those companies or join that professional association that they recommended. So use the advice that they gave you, and also connect with their connections. Okay, so this is again the farming. Use the, you harvest the seed that they give you to plant another seed, and this one might be the one that leads to that job, or just to a really good professional relationship that you got. So phase 2, now you're ready to go on. You've also learned a lot from your research about what job types maybe would be a good fit for you. At this point, you've learned kind of what environments you want to find yourself in, and maybe where the jobs are. You've talked to people who are in the industry, and they've told you, hey, here's where the jobs are. So now you're armed with that information. So moving forward, you can go back to those online job boards. Pardon me. Go back to those and now do more thorough searches for jobs. You can search specific companies and look at their career sections on their websites and know a little bit more after talking with people, networking, and doing your initial job search. With this, though, I will say this is where you should put 20% of your energy. Okay, 20% of your energy. The rest of your energy is going to go to continuing to network. This is how people find jobs. This is how people get hired. I can't stress that enough. So first, follow up on all those leads and the advice that they've given. Touch back with the individuals that you've already made contact. So you can follow up with them by doing these things. You can tell them how you acted on the advice that they gave you. You can, if you're seeing something on LinkedIn, like some sort of professional update, make sure that you're congratulating them. Check back with your friends and family. I always do this. I always recommend doing this, every couple of weeks with friends and family, because, just they're people that you can afford to bother a little bit more and just say, hey, did you think of anybody else? Or did you see any leads that I should know of? And so just checking back in with them every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that will help keep you in the forefront of their mind. And so they really will help you with your job search if you do that. And you can always check in with people personally, so, hey, how's your work going during this time? People that you've connected with in the past, even 2 years ago at a networking event. If you're about to graduate, I encourage you to kind of renew those connections by just checking in with them now and saying, hey, what are things like for you in this crazy time? Is everything okay? Anything I can be praying for you for? Do you need any help? You think of what you can offer as well to them. As you're doing your research, you might have some really good leads for other people. And and just kind of what goes around comes around in that way. So share the information that you've collected in this time, and then make some new leads, same way you did before. So keep on going. It's cyclical. So this is where 80% of your energy should be in your job search, and that's not a joke. That's not an exaggeration. Literally, 1/5 of your time should be spent actually applying to jobs online, and 4/5 of your time should be networking to find those leads and those jobs. Just real briefly, I want to go over kind of this idea of having tiers. So this kind of connects to where you should be putting your energy. When you are doing online applications and finding jobs online, you can kind of put your different desired jobs in different categories. And so your tier 1 jobs should be the jobs that you really want. It's maybe the perfect job or the perfect company, and you meet all of the qualifications. So those are tier 1. These ones you should spend the most time on. You should be networking. You should be very strategic. Fill out the applications very thoroughly, and follow up with people, with your connections who maybe suggested that job or that company. So that's where the most effort should go on those tier 1. Tier 2 are those jobs where it's not quite perfect, but almost perfect, and you maybe don't meet all of the qualifications. So these jobs, the ones that fall into this category, It's going to be similar to tier one, but maybe maybe you spend a little bit less time networking in for these jobs. Maybe you don't find somebody who works at the company like you would for tier one, or maybe you take a cover letter that you've already created and you just change it so that it's specific to this one, but you don't reinvent your cover letter. Maybe your resume, you spend a little less time fine tuning. And then tier three, the least effort. So these are ones that are still of interest to you. Maybe you meet a lot of the qualifications, but they aren't your dream job or your dream employer. So for these, don't put in a ton of effort. Don't go out there and network necessarily for these. Just apply. You maybe don't even submit a cover letter with these ones. Some quick questions that I wanted to address. I often get asked about different resume types. So know that majority of hiring managers prefer a traditional resume format, which is one that shows your work history, your work experience in a reverse chronological order, so most recent to least recent, and has bullet points underneath those that highlight your experiences. The second most common is a functional resume. About 20 to 30% of resumes are functional resumes. That is where you, rather than having a work history with bullet points underneath, you have specific skills that you have with bullet points underneath. So it might be skills like communication or professional writing or computer programming, something like that. So, so those are different skills, and then you'd list out different bullet points underneath those. And then there's also CVs. That's for people who are planning on going into academia. And I won't really talk too much more about that. I just want to let you know those exist. If you have questions on those, feel free to ask. We do have resources on those as well. And then this is a question people should be asking is, what is an ATS and why does it matter? An ATS is an applicant tracking system. And essentially it's a computer system that larger companies use to filter through resumes. Basically, if you've ever filled out an application and you had to submit your resume, and then you also had to fill in basically the same information in text boxes, and you had to do, it felt like you were doing double the work. Oftentimes that's a company that's using an applicant tracking system. And what it does is it checks the information you submitted against the resume that you submitted, and it creates, takes all these different looking resumes, all these different looking applications, and creates one format for them that then everybody looks the same to the employer who's looking at the resumes. So basically filters those resumes and makes them look all the same for a couple reasons, but one is that they can do keyword searches through them, so then it just kind of makes it more user-friendly, that they can just kind of search through these quicker. The AI, the artificial intelligence in the software can often rank the resumes or give them a score out of 10, so 1 through 10, if based off your qualifications and your experiences and the keywords that you included. So it's so important to have your resume fine-tuned and a really solid one for this purpose. It, like I said, formats it so it's all the same. That makes it easier for employers to be switching between different applicants' resumes. And some tips that we've got then to kind of beat the system, if you will, is to make sure that you're using vocabulary from the job posting, from the company's website, from the industry lingo and buzzwords that you know. Avoid columns if possible, so avoid doing things with 2 columns or any other kind of confusing formatting with tables that can screw some of those systems up. And then include as much relevant information as possible while still making it easy to read. Oftentimes they will go to your resume if you do make it to like the final couple individuals. They will go back to your original resume, so still want to make it professional. So yeah, so that you don't you won't really know if a company is using these or not. You might be able to ask them. It's okay to have a resume that that looks professional, looks good. So if they aren't using one, it's good, but also is formatted properly with all those good keywords and everything in case they are. And then kind of one of the last questions I want to address is a cover letter. Do you need one? First, what is a cover letter? A cover letter is something that can demonstrate your interest. It goes beyond your resume. It provides maybe a really good example of your communication professional skills. So if you're going to spend time on it, if you're going to spend time making a cover letter professional and showing your communication, it can really work well for you as far as being a positive example of your professionalism. And so many recruiters would say that you should have one, right? It would be a mistake maybe to not have one. And then with interviewing, I want to briefly talk about that, or just give you this piece of advice. My biggest piece of advice is right up there, is that you can be and you should be prepared for interviewing. Scar agrees, be prepared. So employers will expect you to be prepared if you show up for an interview. And so we have a lot of resources that you can use on our website on The Rock, through Confluence on The Rock. And you can set up appointments with us. We'd be happy to do mock interviews or go over some different interview types with you. And then we even have a program called Big Interview. Check that out. It is an amazing program that helps you prepare for interviews. And so even a quick Google search it will help you prepare for interviews and knowing what questions are out there. As I mentioned before, Glassdoor, you can actually find possible interview questions for different roles and different companies. So I recommend checking that out as well. Excuse me. And then lastly, some other details to sort out. These are things to start thinking about as you prepare to get hired. And that it's exciting, but it's nerve-wracking, but you got to be prepared for the negotiation and prepared for accepting an offer. So even if you can't negotiate, you got to be able to know whether you can accept an offer or not based off of your budget and what you need. So make sure you have at least some sort of answer to these questions, some possibilities of where you're going to live. What's your monthly budget? So what do you need to be making as a salary or in your job? What do you need to be making to survive? Do you need health care? Do you need do you want dental insurance? What's important to you? And maybe those aren't deal breakers, but just thinking about those things before a job offer is extended will help you navigate whether it's something you really can commit to or not. And then looking up what's the typical pay. Again, Glassdoor is a great website for that. And there's other resources you can find out there. The U.S. Bureau of, what is that one? There's a U.S. kind of work department, is it Bureau of Commerce? That will give you kind of pay ranges. So that's a great thing to check out so that you know kind of what's out there. And it's okay, certain roles, it's okay to counteroffer. And then other ones, it's entry level, there's no room for wiggle room. But it's still okay to maybe throw that out there and find that out. So if you have any questions about that or want help navigating that, then you can meet with career development.